Okay, so welcome to Legally Speaking on the Sovereign Stylist. This is our new feature that we are going to kind of start doing regularly with an attorney so we can get your guys' general questions answered. Today I am with Jennifer LeMaster. And Jennifer, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi, my name is Jennifer LeMaster, and I am an insurance coverage lawyer. I practice law in Texas, and I've been practicing for about 17 years. I have a partner, her name is Najat Ahmed. She offices in Dallas, I office in the Houston area, and we both practice primarily insurance coverage law. And we're just grateful to be invited to your group today to chat.
Excellent. So we're just going to get started with the questions that you guys sent in. The first one is, why aren't the coronavirus or pandemics covered by most business insurance policies?
So that's kind of a complicated question. And some of you guys might have seen our video that we created on this topic of business interruption insurance. And if you haven't, it's probably good to check it out. It's pretty short, but I'll try and keep this part brief because I know not everybody geeks out to this kind of stuff like I do. But generally speaking, there are business insurance policies. Either they're called business owners policies or commercial property policies. And within those policies, there's a coverage for business interruption. And that means there's coverage for loss of business income in addition to some other categories that is really meant to put a business back in the position that it was prior to the loss. And the problem with these claims is that most of the insurance companies have been denying them summarily without really, in my view, any adequate consideration or investigation. And they're relying on two key issues. One is that the policy requires that there be loss, physical damage or loss to the covered property. And then the second basis for denial is mostly a virus exclusion to the extent that it is present in the policy. So those are the two key issues from a coverage perspective as to why not all insurers are actually, I have heard of zero insurers covering business income loss relating to COVID-19, although our firm is taking looks at people's policies. We're analyzing it and determining whether we think that there's some good coverage arguments there. And we do, in fact, think that there's some good coverage arguments. So hopefully we'll be changing the insurer's mind with our litigation on these issues.
Excellent. So another question is, the president has declared that this is a national emergency. Why aren't insurance agencies not covering it?
So that really reflects back to the prior question. Just because the president has declared a national state of emergency doesn't mean that it necessarily impacts the policy. So think of your insurance policy as a contract between you and the insurance company. And those contracts are enforced, the policies are enforced just like any other contract under the law. So generally speaking, there's really no way to force the insurers to do a thing that they're not contractually obligated to do just because there's a declaration of a national state of emergency. I think in some contracts there's provisions for that, but insurance policies, no.
Okay. What is the difference between contingent business interruption insurance and regular business interruption insurance?
That's a great question. So regular business interruption insurance, well, actually, if you think of it in terms of buckets, there's 4 types of business interruption insurance. And one is business income loss, which is what I've been talking about the most. And another form of it is contingent business interruption. And contingent just means the loss happened to a third party, say your supplier, and that's what caused your business to suffer income loss. So for example, if say your supplier was shut down or there was a fire at their facility and burned up all of their supplies, and that's your only supplier that you could get, say, color, that would be a contingent loss that impacted your business even though you didn't suffer a direct physical loss to your facility.
So because let's say, like, Salon Centric or Cosmoprof or State Beauty is closed. They've been closed down because their government officials have closed them down because of what's going on. Um, but the salon is also closed. Does
Right.
does that mean that qualifies or not?
That's a good overall example of a contingent loss, but all forms of business interruption insurance, all four that I just mentioned, require that first hurdle to be met, which is physical loss or damage. So the insurance companies have taken the position that this virus is not a physical loss or damage to property. So they've taken a hardline position from the outset, which basically precludes coverage under any form of business interruption. But in my view, they're wrong, and we're testing them with litigation. So it certainly is going to be one of the arguments we're making, that there should be coverage for these contingent losses in addition to business income loss.
Okay. So the current situation of the nation, the pandemic, has me wanting to reconsider my current insurance policy. What should I look for and make sure that I am covered for this happening in the future?
So that's a really awesome question, because it kind of goes to the heart of what we're doing with these claims. You really could have gone to your agent and asked for any kind of policy, and they would have sold you the same policies we're seeing, the commercial property policies, and even some policies are written to cover pandemic, and the insurance companies have still denied those claims. So it's hard to say you should go to your agent and request these exact policies, because we don't think they're being applied and interpreted in the way in which they were meant. Generally speaking, in the world of good practices for insurance, you should definitely look for a commercial general liability policy. And general liability is essentially insurance coverage for third-party claims. So if someone comes in your salon and slips and falls, then that claim would be run through your CGL policy. And they offer you, in my view, one of the most valuable coverages, which is a defense. So they'll hire a lawyer, generally speaking. I'm speaking in generalities because every policy is different, but understand, you have to read your own specific policy because each is a contract. But generally speaking, if someone comes in your salon, slips and falls, you report that claim to your CGL insurer, and they are going to retain counsel for you if that claimant files suit. And the cost of defending a claim can sometimes be more than the actual claim itself. So it's a really important coverage that you have the cost of defense being provided by your insurance carrier in addition to indemnity, and that means the funding of any settlement or judgment that may come from that personal injury loss. So that's an example for commercial general liability. And the other coverage that I would encourage you to look at is a business owner's policy, or also a commercial property policy, and those coverages can kind of work together. And in the greater umbrella of those coverages, available would be coverage for loss like physical damage, like we're talking about, if the salon burns down, et cetera. Or hopefully, if we're doing a good job in these cases that we're bringing on behalf of business owner insureds because of COVID, hopefully that gamut will be expanded, and that there will be more coverage for things like this. And so those are the policies we look for that coverage. But generally speaking, to cover loss of business income, that comes through the commercial property policy, or it comes through the business owner's policy in the form of business interruption insurance coverage. So those are the buzzwords you want to ask your agent to be sure that you have coverages for those things.
Okay. This is kind of along the same lines, but we have a member that is getting ready to open a new salon. What does she need to look for in an insurance policy, both in general and to make sure that she is covered if something like the coronavirus is to happen again?
So it is very similar to the last question. So again, you'd look for a business owner's policy or a commercial property policy. And within that policy, you should have business interruption insurance coverage. That's the buzzword. You want to be sure your agent knows that that's the coverage you want to cover those lost business income that comes from any kind of physical damage or loss to your property. And then you also want, for sure, in my view, to get some kind of general liability coverage, a commercial general liability policy, because of the reason I just noted. It's just imperative to be able to defend yourself, and that coverage of being able to have a lawyer retained for you and to be able to get the settlement or judgment indemnified is really important coverage for any business out there.
Okay, so this is a big one in the group lately. Should I have my client sign a consent form before doing services?
Yes, I've been so lucky to be invited to your group lately, and I have noticed that is a very popular topic. So I have really broad and general advice legally on this issue, but also practical advice. So a waiver, there's no harm in having your client sign a waiver. It's maybe arduous for the salon owner to have to deal with them signing the paper, or if you do an iPad intake, then you have to sterilize that. So there's all of these practical considerations, right? There's nothing wrong with doing that. Legally speaking, not all waivers are enforceable, like not all consent forms are enforceable. So it's really a state-by-state analysis. For instance, if you have someone sign a waiver and then you still behave negligently, it's hard to waive negligence that's unforeseen, right? So in that instance, the waiver really isn't going to be very strong as a defense to any future claim. And also, in my view, with respect to COVID-19, people are kind of willfully going out into the world and going into salons or going into restaurants. So from a defensive perspective, if you are sued, let's just say, and that's the whole point of a waiver, right, to protect you when you're sued. If you are sued, then I think there's a really big defensive argument that you assume the risk. So that means, something's inherently dangerous and you choose to go do it anyway, whether you have a waiver or not. There's a legal defense to that claim saying, well, you knew what you were doing and you did it anyway. You've assumed the risk, and therefore that defers some of the liability on the defendant. So you have those issues all in play. So in my mind, a waiver is kind of belts and suspenders, meaning it's just an added layer of protection, an added defense to the defenses we know are already going to be available. Another one is, tracing it back to the point of contact. That's probably going to be pretty difficult right now, especially since most states aren't testing as rapidly and broadly as they could be or should be. So tracing, and that's another defense. So imagine you get sued, you're going to raise assumption of the risk, you're going to raise difficulty in proving actual causation because you can't trace it, and you're going to then have this added layer of a waiver. It just all compiles as belts and suspenders, in my view. Is it 100% necessary, a waiver? Probably not. Will it hurt you? Definitely not. So to me, it should be considered in practical sense as well.
So it's kind of like, the way that I kind of see it is that it's like for your information, or like to the client, like you're bringing awareness to them. And it might be better just to, if you do a waiver, outline the precautions and the extra sanitation that you're taking, just to make them aware of it.
Well, you can. So that's really like an informed consent mixed with a waiver.
Okay.
Just be careful. I would caution, if you're doing that, then you better abide by your own rules, because basically what you're doing is setting forth, here are the things I'm going to do, here are the rules I'm going to follow for myself. And if you don't abide by that, now you've created a scenario where you could be held accountable to your own rule.
Okay.
So a standard waiver can just be a paragraph, maybe two, just saying, here you waive any bodily injury claim, and it doesn't have to be specific or say exactly what you're doing. I've seen forms in response to COVID. For instance, I know there's a form circulating around for a group of orthodontists because they have such high exposure, right? And it does set forth those standards. I question it as a lifelong litigator because I think, gosh, that'd be a great exhibit in court if they just missed one of those steps. I'd love to hammer them on that. So I caution having too much detail, but a standard waiver, and honestly, you should be able to get a lawyer in your home state to draft one up for you pretty inexpensively because it really is a form document. So I would encourage you to get legal counsel in each individual state, or maybe one person can do it and then share it with others in that state. But to me, that's the best way to be sure that you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's and not gone too far and not gone too little. So there's like a happy medium there.
Okay, so then this was another question, and I think you kind of addressed this, but can I be sued if a client gets sick? So really, it kind of comes back to if it can be tracked back to your salon, right?
Well, that's just generally speaking, if someone sues you, say for negligence, they have to demonstrate that your negligence caused harm to them. So they have to demonstrate duty, breach, cause, and harm. Those are the elements of a claim. So the duty is like, yeah, you do have a duty to not get your folks sick, right? That makes sense. And then the breach, you have to demonstrate some breach in reasonableness and protocol that caused that. And then the cause is the difficult part. That third prong is, how do you demonstrate that your duty and breach caused that particular harm? So that's where the tracing comes in as a difficulty. If they've been to the grocery store, how are you going to determine it was your salon and not the grocery store? That becomes a little easier case. Say if you have an outbreak at your salon or you have multiple people, then a jury is going to more likely believe that they've met that duty, right? Because jurors see things. If you think of the scales of justice, they just have to tip like this in the civil world to have liability be laid upon a defendant. So it's not like criminal law where you think that standard is much, much higher, more rigorous. In civil law, it's just a little bit. So it really becomes kind of okay, are there circumstances that they are going to make a jury think, oh yeah, like for sure she got it there because there were 5 other people that got it there, or the doctor was able to say the incubation period was such that there was no way she could have gotten it anywhere else, or he could have gotten it anywhere else. Those are all factors that come into play. But generally speaking, I think it's going to be really tough to do a lot of tracing, again, because there's not widespread testing and keeping track of contacts and all of those things.
So that kind of is the same thing with this question, is that could a family the same requirements would have to kind of be met for a family to be able to come back and sue if they had a family member die of the coronavirus?
Right. That's the same analysis. I mean, it would be the same difficulty in demonstrating all 4 elements of a negligence claim. But certainly, we want to do our very best because nobody wants to be that salon or that business that exposed anyone, arguably, to such a severe consequence as death.
So then you kind of just what you were saying is that probably the biggest way it could be tracked back to the salon would be if multiple people ended up testing positive or getting sick.
I think so. Or if you had a client that were completely in isolation and the only trip they'd ever made out of their house was to your salon, the evidence gets a bit stronger, right? But it's very, I've been on both sides of the V in my career, so I think like a defense lawyer a lot of times, even though now I'm on the other side. But, I would bring up, if I were defending that claim, I would bring up, did you get groceries delivered, and how do you know they didn't come in your house that way? And there's so many contacts, even if you completely shut yourself in your house, that you could potentially have if you're accepting anything from the outside into your house. So it's one of those things that's it's going to be very fact specific as to how strong these cases can be or not. And it's just, I am sure, if I know plaintiffs' lawyers in this country, I am sure they are going to try their hardest to bring these claims. But hopefully there'll be some relief for business owners. I do know there's some early mumblings in Congress about passing some kind of legislation that protects business owners from these very types of claims. Now, whether that gets done or not is, to me, like going to Vegas and putting everything on black, because who knows in the current political environment we're in, if anything can get done. But I sure hope so. I'm a small business owner. My husband's a small business owner. My sister and mom own a hair salon. So I hope that there's some protection there, because I think dragging a lot of small business owners through the ever expanding cycle of personal injury claims over COVID would be really destructive and not a good place to put businesses in after they're already so damaged from all of this.
Yeah, it'd be very detrimental to the economy altogether.
Absolutely.
If we had lawsuits popping up left and right. And then just to kind of touch on for the independent stylists, so the ones living the sweet life and booth renters. So are there insurance policies out there for them also to get kind of coverage?
They should be able to get a business owner's policy, because they are operating their business just like anyone else, and they're leasing their space just like anyone else. So if you opened your own salon in a strip center and signed that lease, you now have an interest in that business that you should be protecting with insurance. And there's really no difference if you have a small room inside a salon or you have the whole building. You're still a business owner and you're still operating. You still have business income to protect. So you should absolutely be getting insurance, even if you're an independent operator leasing a room versus owning the whole facility.
So then kind of to wrap things up, you were talking about how you're kind of helping your clients kind of battle the insurance companies in a way, kind of like bring some things to their attention and get them some coverage. If any of our members are wanting to do the same, what steps should they take? Okay, so now we're back. Sorry, we kind of lost Jennifer for a moment. She has a storm moving in and lost power there in Texas. So just to kind of wrap up, what should members do if they want to kind of contest or battle their insurance on relating to COVID?
Right, absolutely. So if you have a business interruption coverage, so that would be in a commercial policy, property policy, or a business owner's policy, those are the names. Send it to me and my partner and we'll review it for free. We're taking cases all over the US. So if we think that there's some good arguments to be made for you on your behalf, we will most certainly do our very best to help you. And we'll give that review of policy for free. So just send them on in. And I can give you my email, or
I'll post it in the comments here when I'll post it in the comments, and then if anybody needs to also, everybody knows they can reach out to me, and I know how to get a hold of you too. So do you want to share with us what your website is? That's another way they can get a hold of you.
Sure, yeah, you can take a look and check us out, read about us. It's www.lawtx.com. So lawtx.com. And we have a separate page for COVID business interruption claims. You can click on and watch some videos and hear even more about this mostly boring topic to most people.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us. And I look forward to having you on, Legally Speaking, to bring some more information to our members. If you guys have any topics that you would like to have addressed with an attorney on Legally Speaking that can kind of help the entire group, go ahead and send them to me or drop them in the comments. Also, Jennifer and I will be watching the comments of this post. So if you have any other questions, go ahead and drop them below, and we will get you answered. So thank you very much, Jennifer.
Thanks, guys.